Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, who knew that Mr. Dmitry Medvedev, the former president of the Russian Federation and prime minister at one point, would be the mouthiest, hawkish guy in the Russian government? He made a lot of statements which were direct and clear, and he makes another one that I don't think it's surprising, but hey, Poland, be careful. Medvedev has plans for you, and I'm pretty sure you are ready for that, for those plans, because you have plans for Russia and Ukraine as well. So I don't think they match. They match, but from the opposite directions, if you know what I mean. All right, if you don't, please follow me in this video. So this article comes from AOL via Reuters AOL. Russia's Medvedev floats idea of pushing back Poland's borders. This article comes from February 24th, 2023. Here he is with a skunk right here in front of him. So, Russia's former president Dmitry Medvedev said on Friday that the only way for Moscow to ensure a lasting peace with Ukraine was to push back the borders of hostile states, plural, as far as possible, even if that meant the frontiers of NATO member Poland. Well, at least he doesn't have any, how should I put it, illusions that he's fighting Ukraine. He has no illusion that he's fighting the good countries, which is us, because that's what we say we are, so we must be. We identify as good, so you gotta respect that one. Now, if you identify as good as well, I don't know how we solve that problem. Or if you don't identify me as good, we have a little bit of illogical whatever. So contradictions here. So let's see what's going on here. Ukraine says it is defending itself from an unprovoked colonial style way of aggression, and has vowed to retake all its own territories by force, including Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014. Now, let's unpack this bullshit. Ukraine says it's defending itself. Well, I think Ukraine is just used by the forces of good to destroy the colonial style Russia that has 2 or 3, I think, how do you call those, military bases across the world, whereas the forces of good, United States, has about 750, I think, of equipment, military equipment on this planet. So who has what and whose colonial style? Anyway, and the forces of good have a long history of colonialism, and but they forget about it. Somehow they are not that way. Now, unprovoked or provoked, that's how you look at it. Some people think it's provoked, some people are unprovoked. The accredited official version that we all have to regiment it in our brains as free people is that it was unprovoked. The Russians can provide you, and they did provide, their version of events, and they say, well, we go over there to stop the Ukrainian army killing our Russian compatriots in the east of Ukraine after we tried to make sure that Ukraine stays as a country with the Minsk Agreements 1 and 2 in 2014-2015. That's one of the reasons why. And the other one, you can say is provoked. My security is threatened by your security, which you arm yourself. You can't arm yourself at the expense of other countries, because the countries will feel threatened and then they will have to react. So, and that's just 2 reasons. They came with more than that, but we can't accept those because they are bad people. Anyway, Medvedev, an ally of President Vladimir Putin, forecast on Friday, by the way, annexed Crimea after Crimea held 2 referenda. One to break away from the illegitimate, at that time, regime of Kiev, which toppled the legitimate, democratically elected regime of Yanukovych, and they voted in a referendum to break away, and then with another referendum to join Russia. So that there were two referenda. Somehow they're not acceptable because we say so, and because it's against our interest, then we don't like the will of the people, but we like Kosovo's will of the people, which we immediately, the forces of good, immediately recognize that referenda, and the government who overthrew the democratically elected government of Yanukovych. So this is what the good forces of good do. Medvedev, an ally of President Vladimir Putin and a Russian too, forecast on Friday that Russia would be victorious and that some kind of loose agreement would eventually end the fighting. Well, when the forces of good will get hurt on their purse, and maybe their population, which is us, they're a little modern slaves on the plantation, will get a little bit too mouthy. Maybe they will care about it, and they will say, okay, maybe we should just talk with the weasels, right? The bad dudes. Nice try. Let's try again some other time. By that time, unfortunately, Russia, China, India, and many other countries would have formed the opposition party or opposition club to the club of the good. But they will be the club of the evil, okay? We got that covered. So, and I'm quoting, victory will be achieved. We all want it to happen as soon as possible, and that day will come, end quote, said Medvedev. He predicted that tough negotiations with Ukraine and the West would follow that would culminate in some kind of agreement. And now I'm quoting. That is why it is so important to achieve all the goals of the special military operation, to push back the borders that threaten our country as far as possible, even if they are the borders of Poland. Oh no! But he said that a deal lack what he called fundamental agreements on real borders and not amount for an overarching European security pact, making it vital for Russia to extend its own borders now. And I'm quoting, that is why it is so important to achieve all the goals of the special military operation, to push back the borders that threaten our country as far as possible, and even if there are the borders of Poland. Okay, now Poland shares long eastern borders with Ukraine and with Russia's ally Belarus, and a frontier of 200 kilometers, 125 miles in its northeastern corner of the Belarusian enclave of Kaliningrad. Let's see where it's at, okay? So let's go first here to Europe. Here is Ukraine, this is Poland, this is Belarus, and here's Kaliningrad, part of Russia. So this is where Poland builds electric fence. I made a video on that. So Poland builds an electric fence against another country, like on the territory of Poland the Nazis did with some of their concentration camps. I guess a good lesson learned. I despise that kind of idea, but hey, if that's the way you think, it's your right to think that way. Protect your borders from another country. You do it however you want. I'm okay with that. Do I think it's extreme? Well, it's up to the Polish people to decide that. Right? Now here, this is Ukraine. This is where the special military operation occurs, or war invasion. This is how much the Russians got of Ukraine. And remember what Medvedev refers to, and I'm trying to interpret his thing. I'm not saying this is, but on his really the intent. I mean, it's no secret. Poland doesn't like Russia. Russia doesn't like Poland. I mean, anyway, who does Poland like anyway? Poland has anyway wants some territories from here belong to it, and that's their goal in certain kind of scenarios. The same Hungary had Transcarpathia here. Romania has this part here, but Romania is weasel, so they're gonna be the one they're gonna be in the ass all the time. Anyway, so we have this, guys. So what the Russians said we're gonna do this. That's what they reported many times. Lavrov, for instance, they said we want to get to this point here, which belongs to Russia, blah blah blah. Russians living here, we protect them. That's how the story goes, and I'm just saying it. But he said if the Ukrainians are provided long-range missiles, let's say the long-range missiles have this range, and they are capable of hitting across the border, then we have to put them back this much, so they cannot reach inside our territory at that point. So if they have 100 miles, how do you call it, radius, or range, if they have this range, 100, they have to put them 100 miles or kilometers. If they have 200, they have to put them 200 miles. So they cannot reach inside. So this is going to be like a buffer zone. This is what this guy says. And he says if NATO decides to deploy weapons here, missile systems that will have a radius, range of, more than this and more than that, they will have to push them the distance of the range. So if they have 1,000 miles range, the Russians say from the borders of Russia, we have to push you guys 1,000 miles here, even though 1,000 miles crosses into Poland. And if Poland is going to house this kind of rockets, missiles, and is hostile to us, we have to push them back. That's what he said. I think he's exaggerating, but what do I know? So this is what he means. They said it before, Lavrov said it before. So let me show you the map again. So we have here, so if there are, this is the legend, they give me a size here. No, but let's say this is about 200 kilometers distance right here. So if the Ukrainians get missiles with a range of 500 kilometers, that would be about here, let's say. I'm just exaggerating, I don't know if that's so or not, something like this. So if the Russians have to push everybody to this point right here, so the Ukrainians will not be able to hit from here on where the Russia claims its territory. If it's 700 kilometers, it's going to be here. If it's 1,000, it's going to be in Poland. That's what they mean. I mean, I don't know exactly the distances here, but probably I can figure it out somehow. But anyway, you got the idea of what this guy he means. Now let's continue with the article and see what else Medvedev has to say. So any encroachment on Poland's borders would bring Russia for the first time into direct conflict with NATO. They are in the direct conflict anyway. It's just that it's going to escalate that anyway, and the Russians have no illusions. I mean, NATO started with nothing, and now they're going to send supposedly fighter jets and tanks that will, not supposedly, they would send those, it's just that they will supposedly operated by Ukrainian fighters, not by NATO contractors. Well, okay. President Biden pledged in a speech in Warsaw this week to defend every inch of NATO territory if it was attacked. Very interesting. This guy says this, right? And 2 days after that, the Medvedev comes and says that. So probably they smell a rat when they smell a rat, if you know what I mean. Medvedev, 57, has adopted an increasingly hawkish tone and made a series of outspoken interventions since the war began, with some political analysis suggesting he is one of the people that Putin might one day consider as a successor. Well, I would caution this kind of Medvedev, and I tell you why. Sometimes, I'm telling you, it's not I don't think it's a secret, but when you are implanted in a certain kind of organization and you want to ascend, you obviously, and implanted by outside forces, you want to, grow in that organization and get promotions, you are going to be the hawkish or the hawkish over there. You're going to say the party line the strongest and the loudest, so they will see you as a non-threat. But you will be suspicious for people who know this kind of little thing. Oh, he yells the loudest. Let's check this guy. He just wants to cover his tracks. Usually that's how it happens. So you have to be very careful when you say, yeah. Like right now, Medvedev is the blah, 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 but he might be on the payroll of the other ones. This guy said experts, yeah, maybe he's going to be the succeeding Putin. And once he gets over there, he puts his people in place. And then in 2 years or so, you realize that he turns 180 degrees. Or like the stupid foreign minister of Germany said, maybe you turn 360 degrees. Remember when he has that, she said in that conference, in Munich conference, in front of Blinken and other weasels. None of them laughed when she said that Putin has to change. He has to change. He has to make a 360-degree turn. Everybody was like, okay, that's very deep. None of us say, that's stupid. She's a foreign minister of Germany. Can you imagine that? Yep, you can. I can, unfortunately. What can you do? Germany's balls were snipped a long time ago. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.